Welcome friends. This is now the second part of our grammar topic, tense and voice. In the first part we have discussed the concept of tense. We have discussed certain terms. What is tense? What is finite verb? What is sentence, etc. Now this is the second part. Here we are going to discuss the concept of voice. Friends, as we know, sentences are made of words. A group of words that gives you complete sense is called a sentence. And sentence formation is possible with two types of words, that is noun and verb, but the verb has to be a finite verb. Now, sentences are of two types. As far as the structure of the sentence is concerned, there are of two types. One is called as active voice, other one is called as passive voice. Friends, you will be surprised to know whether you know the concept of active voice or passive voice. Without realizing the concept, when you speak a language as you know is spoken in sentences. So when you speak any sentence, it is either of active voice or passive voice. So it is very important, very essential to learn what is active voice and what is passive voice, and where to apply both these forms of sentences. For your kind information, fundamental sentence formation for any tense in any language is of active voice. But along with active voice, at certain times, in certain situations, even the passive voice is also equivalently important. So we should know both, and we should also know how to use and when to use both this type of sentences. So let us learn the concept of active voice and passive voice. First of all, active voice. Friends, when you form a sentence, or you are supposed to form a sentence, and the situation comes to you where you have to decide, subject is playing an important part in performing the action, is doing an active role. So this sentence is formed with the subject right in the beginning of the sentence. And that kind of sentence formation, the subject in the beginning, then comes verb, then comes object, and then the other words, would be called as active voice. At the same time, sometimes we feel subject is very obvious, is understood by the listener. So we find subject is not performing an important role or an active role. Here, instead of subject, verb is more important, object is more important. Object is the word upon which the action is performed. Certain action needs object, certain actions don't need objects. The verb that needs object is called as transitive verb. The verb that does not need any object would be called as intransitive verb. So in a sentence, sometimes there may be no object when the verb is intransitive. Sometimes there is one object when the verb is transitive. Sometimes with the transitive verb, there are more than one object. There are even sometimes two objects. So it is called as a verb with dual object. So object is something upon which the action is performed. So sometimes we feel the object and the action, they are more important than the doer of the action, what the subject. And in this situation, the sentence starts with object and subject is playing a passive role. So this kind of sentence formation is called as passive voice. So here you have two examples of active voice and passive voice. As you can see, active voice, subject plays active and important role in performing the action. Sentence starts with subject in active voice. For example, Rohan is the subject. Rohan is the subject. This is subject. He writes a letter to his cousin every month. So in this sentence, Rohan is subject, is the doer of the action. Here this is the verb, writes. This is belong to simple present, as we'll discuss it later. But this is the verb and that belongs to a tense. This gives you the exact time and situation of the action. So this is called also a finite verb, and this finite verb is of active voice. So this is subject, doer of the action. This is verb, finite verb, simple present tense. Now this is a letter, is the direct object of the verb writes, and it has got another object, that is cousin, that is indirect object, that is also the same verb writes. So this sentence, this verb has got dual object, but here the sentence starts with subject. Well, this is subject, this is object, object number 1, this is object, object number 2. So the sentence starts with subject, then comes verb, and then comes object. This kind of sentence formation is called as active voice sentence. Now passive voice. So here, as we have discussed, action and its object are more important than the subject. Subject plays passive part and sentence starts with object. Normally teachers consider the passive voice as something that starts with object, but in the passive voice again the center of focus is subject. If the subject is playing active role, the voice is active. If the subject is playing passive role, the voice is passive. As you know, okay, wherever we go, important people, important person in a film, in a film song, a hero, whatever, they are very important. So they are just put right in the beginning. They start the cue, they are right in the front. So the same thing happens over here. Subject is important, playing key role, playing active role. So it's right in the beginning of the sentence. It starts the sentence. And if subject is not important, is playing passive role, is not actively involved in the sentence, in performing the action, so it is either put at the end of the sentence or thrown out of the sentence. So it is understood, sometimes it is not written even in the sentence. And the sentence starts with object. So in active voice and passive voice, if subject is active, voice is active. Subject is passive, voice is passive. So here we have the example of passive voice. So this object, a letter, I have taken letter for the consideration. You can also take his cousin as an object right in the beginning. So it can be made passive in two ways, using both the objects one by one. So I've taken the first object, the direct object, letter right in the beginning. So letter, now the passive voice verb form of the same tense, simple present tense. It is different from the active voice form. Here it is writes, one of the root form is followed by s. Here it is helping verb is, and the past participle of the verb write, that is what written. So letter is object, it is now passive voice form of the verb of the same tense. Now the second object, it remains at the same place, and subject, that is Rohan, goes at the end of the sentence because it is playing a passive role, not so important one. So it is going at the place of object, and object comes at the place of subject. So this transformation occurs from changing active voice to passive, and vice versa, passive voice to active, and then the rest of the words. So this is the whole thing is, a letter is written to his cousin by Rohan every month. Friends, this is active voice sentence, this is passive voice sentence. Here we have exchanged, or we have shifted subject and object, and we have changed also the form of verb. After doing all this, we have simply changed the voice from active to passive, but the time and situation of the action, the overall meaning of the action does not get changed. So you can just make out the agenda after this discussion. Okay. In the real life situation, when you are supposed to speak a sentence and you feel you want to emphasize upon the subject, you better go for active voice. certain situations occur where you feel okay, subject is very obvious, is understood by the people, is not so important. It is quite understood obvious. For example, okay, if a school organizes a picnic, so it's obviously organized by the school management or the principal. So no need to mention it. So simply it is to inform to the students that school, a picnic is organized by the school, or picnic is going to be organized by the school. Who organizes we never mention because it is understood. So in this situation, the action is organized. Picnic comes in the beginning. So picnic is not the subject being in the beginning. Picnic is actually the object. That is what is more important. Subject is either principal or management, is understood by everyone. So we don't mention it. Getting me or not? So when you feel object is more important, playing active role and is emphasized, subject at the same time is very obvious, is understood. So we either put it right in the end or do not even introduce the subject in the sentence. And sentence starts with object. So this is called as what? Passive voice. Friends, report writing, discussing an article, notice writing, number of write-ups are there, number of writing parts are there where passive voice is highly emphasized. So you should have equivalent practice of performing both the sentences, active voice as well as passive voice. And it comes only through practice. Maths and English are two subjects where practice is very much important. Though we are learning this theory and all that, I'll send you the practice exercises. But if you perform the practice exercise and if you don't practice speaking or talking to somebody, again you will not get the grip over the language. So speaking, listening and talking to somebody is very much important. So friends, a very important note to be noted. Forms of verb in active and passive voice are different in the same tense, as I told you. Okay. When you form active voice or passive voice, the sentence gives you the same meaning. The action is performed at the same time in the same situation. No difference regarding the meaning itself. But still, in these two types of sentences, the form of verbs are actually different in the same tense. For example, this is the past tense of see, that is SAW, so. And here with the helping verb was and the past participle form of the verb, that is seen. So at first sight looks to be totally different tenses. But mind well, so is the simple past tense but active voice. And was seen is a simple past tense passive voice. So this is the active voice and this is the passive voice. So in the same tense, in active voice we have different kind of form of verb and in passive voice we have different kind of form of verb. So when we form tenses, we have to learn two types of sentence structure. Active voice sentence structure and passive voice sentence structure in the same tense. As a matter of fact, certain tenses don't have both the types. So we'll discuss it later. Now we are coming to our main agenda, discussing the tenses. So as you already learned, this is the kind of topic, grammar topic, is a sort of revision for you. You've been learning it for so long back. From the very primary to this standard. But every year, this topic performs a very important role. It is the basis of number of other topics. So, repeated revision of the same topic can get you grip over that. Still, students take it for very granted and they do not have that grip over the topic. So, once we create the base of the topic, other topics will become very much important. Later you to learn compound complex sentence, simple sentence, various types, indirect speech. Number of topics have got this topic in the basis. So tenses is actually a study of finite verbs. As you know, tenses are actually the verb that show the right time of the action. So according to time, it is categorized into three categories: present, past and future. But further, in the same time, there are different situations. So according to situation, there are again four categories. Suppose in present time, we have another category of situation, that is simple. So it is on and all called as simple present tense. Then comes continuous present tense. Then comes perfect present tense. Then comes perfect continuous present tense. So there are four situations under the same tense, under the same time. Right? And these four situations getting repeated under the rest of the times, past as well as future. So again the same category, simple, continuous, perfect and perfect continuous are in past tense as well as what in future tense. So total time and situation creates one tense. Suppose simple present tense. So present tense has got four different subtypes: present simple, present continuous, perfect present and perfect continuous. In the same way, simple past, continuous past, perfect continuous past, and simple future, continuous future, perfect future and perfect continuous future. So these are 12 tenses dealing with action verbs. Mind well, these tenses are dealing with action verbs. There are tenses which don't deal with action verbs. They show only the availability, existence of certain situations, certain people, certain things, or they show the existence of what certain people or certain things. They are called as the tenses dealing with the verb of to be. Certain tenses dealing with the verb that show the possession over something or relation with somebody. They are called as the tenses dealing with the verb of to have. So there are different tenses, but these are the main tenses. They getting involved in sentence formation and they're dealing with action verbs. So we have to see all these 12 tenses along with this active voice sentence structure and passive voice sentence structure. We also should discuss the usage, in what situation simple present tense is used in real life, what situation arises where you use the sentence belongs to simple present tense. So we'll discuss usages of the same tense, its sentence structure, its being negative, interrogative, and its examples. So after discussing all these tenses along with the two types of sentences, active voice and passive voice, we'll get to the end of our topic. So friends, here we end the part 2 of tenses and voice. In the next part, in the coming parts, we're going to discuss all these 12 tenses, starting with simple forms of all the tenses, present, past as well as future. You will come to know how the sentences are formed, how they are made negative questions along with their examples. It will be very fruitful experience. So if you like my video, so please share it, subscribe it, and tell your friends and your relatives just to use it, watch it, and try to get the benefit of this video. Thank you very much. We will soon meet.